sure that this works for you. Okay. Remember these formulas. Be sure you can do those. Here we are. Had talked to you about there are several different ways to handle money. You save some money. Money that you save is for short-term events. Like Trent's going to want to go on a vacation sometime. That kind of money you put into some type of savings, whether it be a CD or savings or checking account or whatever. You park it someplace like that so that when you go back, you know the money's there. There is money that you're not going to need for a period of time. The big example we've talked about, retirement. With that, you don't put it in a savings account. You'll wind up losing money. Oh, my money will still be there. Yeah, but the buying power will decrease because of inflation. Say what? Well, think about it. Back in 1990, how much did a new car cost? More or less than it does now? Less. $1 then would buy you more than what $1 now will buy you. If you were to buy $1 worth of gummy bears in 1990, you'd get a pound or better. Now, if you buy $1 worth of gummy bears, you get one of those little packages. The dollar doesn't buy as much. That's due to inflation. If you take your retirement money and you just put it in a savings account, when you come back, the money's all going to be there, but it won't have kept pace with inflation. It won't have increased, and you'll have enough money to back in 1990 buy gummy bears, but in 2050 when you retire, holy mackerel, maybe 2055, maybe 2060, when you retire, that same money isn't going to go anywhere near as far, is it? You've got to put the money somewhere where it's going to keep growing and keep up with what's happening to inflation. One way to try and do that, there are no guarantees in life. The only two things in life that are sure is you're going to die, and before you do, you're going to pay taxes. Okay? One direction to go that works out pretty well for the bulk of the people is to put it into either stocks or mutual funds. And a mutual fund is just a whole collection of stocks. A mutual fund would be like this folder, where each page on here is a different company. Oh, here's some stocks of General Electric. Aha, here's some stocks of P&G. Hey, look at here. Here's some stocks from General Mills. Here's some stocks from Pratt Whitney. Here's some stocks from Caterpillar Diesel. You get the idea. It's a mixture of all kinds of companies. But mutual funds still come back to you're buying stocks. You're just buying a collection of them, and somebody else runs the stock for you. They decide when and what to buy, when and what to sell. And your decision is based on at the end of the year or at the end of 5 years, so how'd that do? How'd you guys do with my money? I can do better over here. And maybe sell those funds and buy these funds. Okay. But the thing to realize is that whichever route you're going, whether it be mutual funds or stocks or whatever, it's tied to the stock market. I was given this by a company that I thought was kind of interesting. It shows the this money. One of those ways that the money is made is by buying stock and then selling it for more than what you paid for it. Stock prices go up and down. So for a particular stock, I'm going to pull up something here on Microsoft here in a minute, but Microsoft may be selling for $16 a share one day. You buy a bunch of it, and a couple of months later it's selling for $30 a share. Sell it here and you've made 14 bucks per share, haven't you? And the thing to remember is, Trent, do you usually just buy one share of a stock? No, what do you buy in? Yeah, you buy in blocks. Okay? And it depends how much money you got. 10, 25, 50, 100. Warren Buffett probably buys a tad bit more than 100 shares at a time. Okay? One way to make money is to buy it. When the price goes up, sell it. That's called a capital gain. You pay tax on that. A second way to make money is to own the stock, and at the end of the year or the quarter, the company looks and says, whoa, we've made all this extra money. We're going to share it. We're going to divvy it up between everybody who owns shares of our stock. And for each share of stock that you own, we're going to give you 50 cents, 75 cents, 25 cents, $1.10. Depends on the company and what the earnings are like. So there are two ways to earn money. One is through capital gains. The other is through dividends. When you go, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There's a huge spider right here, and I don't know what to do.
Well, if you want, just move.
Okay.
It's probably not going to attack you. Oh, Riley's going to attack it.
He's going that way. Hold on.
If you try and kill it, it'll make it mad.
Well, he's dead. So.
Okay. When I used to work with the state parks, I worked in a park where we got huge rattlesnakes. I mean, like 6, 8, 9 feet long rattlesnakes and copperheads that were a couple of feet long. And I always told the people the best way to get bitten by a snake is try and kill it. Because first off, it puts you really close to it, right? And secondly, if you're beating on it with a stick, you think it's going to be happy? Okay, so if you see it, just look, there it is. Yep, it's over there, and I'm over here, and we're both good, and we're going on with life. Okay, let's take a look at this quote. The idea of a stock quote is to, in a real quick summary, give you a whole bunch of information about what's going on for that company, so that you can very fast read through, aha, here's what's going on. When you go to different sites, they have different formats on how this stuff is displayed. This is just one thing. But what I want you to be able to do is a couple of things. One, give me the symbol. What's the symbol for Microsoft on the stock exchange? Right next to the company, right? It's a couple of letters. One I'm going to get a kick out is Outback Steak. You happen to know what Outback is? It's OSI, Aussie. Outback Steakhouse Incorporated. I thought it was kind of funny. They're the Aussies on the market. Okay? much variation there's been over that year's time. Price to earnings ratio. One of the things that's pretty cool is most of these words tell you exactly what it is. It's not something clever and tricky. Price to earnings ratio. What does the word ratio mean? It's a fraction, right? It's a fraction. Oh, look at here. It's the price divided by the earnings. This is important. that those things exist. Some of you may not have known that there are things like that out there. It's called a quote, stock quote. Okay. They don't all come in this exact same shape or these same colors, but they all have the same information. People are all looking for that same information. There's other information you can get into, but this is some of the basics. Okay? So there is that. Now, what I want to dive into today is this. Oh my gosh. Statistics. A completely different area. I enjoy teaching this class. I like the opportunity to, because it goes in two different areas of life that you will run into. One of those areas is money. Have you ever bumped into or encountered money anywhere? You know, I'm hoping to encounter more. Okay? And I'm hoping that you now know how to handle it once you do encounter it, or have some idea on how to get started on handling it. Second thing is statistics. Statistics are often presented in the media. The media can be TV, radio, pop-up ads, okay, signs out on the street. Statistics are often presented to try and persuade you to either do something, buy something, support something. They're trying to encourage you to take an action that they are interested in you taking. Does that make sense? What you need to be able to do is to look at statistics when they are given to you and make a decision on, can I trust this statistic? Is it something I want to act upon? Or do I need some more information before I really understand what they're trying to tell me? We are not going to go into all the number crunching on how to do multivariate analysis or how to do an ANOVA or how to run stats on an Excel spreadsheet. We're not doing any of that. All we're going to do here is to say, okay, somebody's already done the number crunching. We're going to assume that they've done it fairly reasonably. And they've got some numbers. How can I check the numbers to first figure out what they're saying? And second, know if I can even trust them. Is every statistic out there trustworthy? No. They can be untrustworthy for a variety of reasons. A common reason is the person reporting it doesn't know statistics. And they're trying to make the statistic or the number do something that it can't do. Example. Several years ago, a friend and I were out in Colorado at a presentation by NOAA. No, not NOAA with the Ark. But NOAA is N-O-A-A. What's that? That's a national government-funded organization that studies atmosphere, ocean, that kind of stuff. And the man got up, and he was talking about the model that he had for climate change. And he was talking about, based on my model, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah are going to happen. And the guy who I was there with looks at me and says, that model's wrong. Okay? The guy I was there with had done his PhD working with those types of equations. And he pointed out those equations are only good for about 5 steps. And then the information gets really bad. It's garbage. It doesn't reflect what's really happening. Well, what this guy was doing was using his model to go out 40 and 50 years. Now, if the equations are only good for 5 or 6 steps, what's 50 years going to be? It's garbage, isn't it? Well, why did he do that? Because he's a meteorologist, not a mathematician. And he got hold of enough math to say, I can make these work, but he didn't understand the dangers of it. And he came interpreted incorrectly, you can get some really interesting statements out of it. Classic example that I like to point to, okay, is when surveys are done. Is the survey trustworthy? Election night 2016. Who was forecast early on to win the presidential election? Hillary. She was forecast to have it done and over by 9 o'clock at night on the early returns. But it was all based on surveys that were done. Okay. Ohio was a key state. Let's see, 2016 Ohio election. Presidential election. And let's see here, by county. Early on, they were saying that Ohio belongs to Hillary. Right? Pennsylvania's going to Hillary. Ohio's going to Hillary. This is going to Hillary. That's going to Hillary. Blah, blah, blah. And on it went. Any idea what this map shows? The blue areas are areas that supported Hillary. The red areas are areas that supported Trump. Do you see a pattern to where those blue areas are? Well, let's see here. Cincinnati, Columbus, where's the Cleveland area? Okay, up in this area, Akron, where's Akron? Over there, Athens, Ohio. Where's Athens? Over there. What's the rest of the state? When they did their surveys, their exit polls, would it make more sense to go to the city where you can talk to a lot of people fast, or out into the towns and villages and communities and talk to the people? Where would you go if you were doing a report? Cities, right? You can get a lot of people fast. Does that show you what happened to their surveys? They went to the three places, the three little spots in the whole state that were voting Hillary. They went to those three little spots and said, Hillary's got it, and walked off. What you need to be aware of, unless a survey is reflective of the entire population, the survey is garbage. So when I hear surveys, my first question is, who did it? Second question was, mathematically, was their sample accurate? If you just pop in those three cities, is your sample accurate? Clearly not. It's showing way the wrong direction. Okay. I always thought during that election cycle, I thought it was really interesting. In Cincinnati, every sign, or a lot of signs said Hillary. As soon as I left the city, you know what every sign said? Trump. From Coleraine all the way up to Oxford, I would go past one Clinton sign. One. And everything else was Trump. And I told Becky, my wife, I said, this doesn't, these surveys are coming with have got to be garbage or something, because that's not what I'm seeing. And Daniel and I were running all over the state for hockey. Now, running all over the state, yes, you do get to Columbus, but between Cincinnati and Columbus is a whole lot of what? Red. Between Cincinnati and Cleveland's a whole lot of what? Red. Everywhere we were driving, all we were seeing was Trump. Until you get to those three little spots. You have got to be aware of what's going on when they do these surveys. Take it a little bit closer to home, maybe. You go into the doctor for a test, whatever the test may be. For me, back in 2009, the tests were all about cancer. Okay? They found that I had cancer. Lord blessed, it was real early stage. They got rid of it. And guess what I go back for every year now? I'm going back in a couple of weeks. You know what it's for? Screening to make sure that it hasn't come back. Now, when they do that screening, am I 100% sure? Is the doctor 100% sure that that screening is accurate? Well, sure, Chuck, it's a medical test. El wrongo, it could be wrong. Okay? Well, what if it's wrong? Well, it depends which way it's going. If it says I don't have cancer, but I do, is that a problem? Yeah, because it's going to go a year without any treatment, isn't it? If it says I do have cancer, but I don't, is that a problem? Well, we have to go through some treatments and stuff that I'm probably not going to be joyful about. Which of the two situations would you rather have? The one is called a false positive, the other is called a false negative. We're going to talk about stuff like that. It all runs off of statistics. Anytime you have any type of a study done, any type of a medical test done on you, realize it can be wrong. That is why sometimes you'll get test results back and they'll say, we're going to order a second round of tests. Why are they ordering a second round? Because if they come back with the same results twice, then they're thinking, I'm really starting to trust that result. But if you get one of each, now you've got, now what do you do? And it can happen. It does happen. And I want to talk about those things. Show you how to figure out the probability of a false positive, of a false negative, how often it happens, all that stuff. But the first thing we need to get into here with statistics is, how do you even get information to talk about? I keep this one in because this is from ancient times. It may bring back memories for you. It's from 2014. Okay. You recognize any of those TV shows? Well, the ones I can read. Okay. This was in September of 2014. Top-rated TV show, Sunday Night Football, followed by NCIS, followed by Big Bang, NCIS, football, more football. Okay. Oh, there, number 10, Dancing with the Stars. You remember that one? Oh my gosh, no. Okay. How do they get the shows that are most popular and least popular? That's worth big money. Why is it worth a ton of money to be the most popular show on TV? It generates a lot of revenue. How do TV shows generate revenue? Do you know those TV shows are actually there to make money? Yeah, it's to provide you entertainment, but by getting your eyeballs on whatever it is they want you looking at, they make money. Well, how do they make money by me watching Dancing with the Stars? What happens every 3 or 4 minutes? And now a word from our sponsor. Where do those TV shows make the money? The commercials. What decides how much they're willing to pay for a commercial? How many people are watching? The TV shows make or do not make money based on the number of people watching because the commercials cost more or less. So finding out how many people are watching a particular TV show is big business. That's essentially what's going to decide what's going to stay on TV, isn't it? Who gets voted off the island and who stays on? Well, do they then survey every TV watcher in the country to get this? There's something called the Nielsen ratings. Okay. traditionally, the way these things have been done is to take a sample. Nielsen's the name of the person who came up with this company to do these studies. And what they do is using mathematics, not just stopping in Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland, but using mathematics across the country. Whoops. Okay, so here's the whole United States. I know this looks kind of sad. Pretend the U.S. kind of looked like that. They're going to figure out where to put monitors to determine what shows and how often they're being watched. And statistically, they'll pick some people up here. They identify a group by age, by income, by community, by religious affiliation, by all kinds of stuff. And they start identifying specific families or individuals whom they want information from. And they base the number of people who get chosen on what percentage of the country is in this income bracket, what percentage of the country is this, that, or the other thing. Pay them to put a monitor in, or try and talk to them and just get it put in for free. And this monitor keeps track of what that particular household is watching. And that household might represent 50,000 people. Yeah.
They're even messed up though. You're saying how not all of them to be accurate. We did the Nielsen thing, and they aren't supposed to do the same person twice.
Right.
And they did it for us, and we just didn't say anything.
Okay.
So they
Yeah.
messed up too.
Statistically, there's a likelihood that you might get picked twice. We've never gotten picked. Okay? You're probably the only crew in here that's ever been picked for one of the Nielsen things. And to get picked twice is interesting. There's something interesting going on with your family that keeps popping them up mathematically. Okay? I don't know what's going on, but mathematically there's something going on with the algorithms where you're reflecting the viewing behaviors of, I don't know, I'm making this up, I'm guessing 25,000 people. But they are very careful on, I don't know exactly how many it is, but it's large chunks. With a small sample, if you're careful on how it's chosen, you can get a pretty good idea, with some flaws, you can get a pretty good idea of what's going on. That is how they get the percent of the population watching Sunday Night Football, watching NCIS, watching Dancing with the Stars, whatever it might be. The first we're going to look at is, how do you take a sample? If the sample is severely flawed, everything else is garbage. Going back to the sample in Ohio, who'd you vote for? If they just went to the 3 C's, Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, that is a severe flaw. And it's probably the way the media went, because how many people, when was the last time you really heard people in the media talking about what's going on in rural areas versus urban areas? How much do you see about rural areas? See anything about the State Fair, Butler County Fair, Hamilton County Fair? All kinds of cool stuff going on there. Hundreds of thousands, millions of people go to the State Fair. And how much coverage? Okay, so you got to be careful. There are two things that you want to do. One is you want to really talk about how the population is going to behave. Whether this be watching TV, buying a particular hamburger, or responding to a particular medication. The population makes reference to everybody in whatever group it is you're interested in. The sample is a small group out of the population. If they wanted to understand at UCBA how important the shuttle to main campus is, they could talk to everybody. That'd be over 6,000 students they'd have to chase down. That's a lot of people. Or you can do a sample where maybe you talk to 300. Which would be easier to chase down, 6,000 or 300? Obviously, 300. And that sample then would be used to try and project what the whole student body at UCBA thinks of the shuttle service. Where you have to be careful is, how do you pick those 300 students? There are different ways to pick those 300 students. How you pick them depends on the type of statistics you're going to do, what the population looks like, all kinds of stuff. How you do your survey affects your outcome. The type of survey you do depends on what kind of study you're doing. We'll pick up with that, I guess, on Monday. Because Wednesday's the test, and what happens Friday? Okay, reading day, right? You're going to be reading something. Maybe it's the inside of your eyelids. Hey, I'll see you all Wednesday.